Hello, and welcome back. Firstly, I want to say a really big thank you to everybody that's been tuning in. The feedback, the DMs, a few emails have been really, really positive. And I've got to remember that it isn't for everybody, but the very reason why I'm doing this is for myself, putting myself out there and silencing all those people that have told me that perhaps it was too late to consider doing something completely different, and that being a mother, my sole purpose was to mother. When in fact, I've been the most creative I've been since having children. So firstly, for anybody out there listening and wanting to get on board and do the things that they love doing, then simply do it. So on today's episode, my first episode with a guest, I'm really delighted and really excited to say that I'm here with another creator, another mother, and a very, very special friend indeed. Welcome, Nina.
Thanks.
How are you?
I'm good.
So,
I'm enjoying being in your little podcast studio. It's nice.
and this is the first in studio you've been to.
Yeah.
I feel honoured, Nina.
I'm glad that you're popping my cherry.
I'm popping that cherry of yours, Nina. And what better person to do it? And what a better place in our London town.
Yeah.
So Nina and I both met each other online. Can you remember where or how online we met each other?
I think I followed you because lovely Africa
Yay!
shared your work, and I thought she looks like a cool girl.
But how did we start talking?
I think you slid into my DMs. Yeah, I think I started following you started following me. I think you responded to one of my stories, and then I think very quickly we started talking about music.
Yeah, karaoke.
And all of the music from because we're pretty much the same age, aren't we? So.
Yeah. But like the thing is, I can't even remember the exact point, but I think I might have looked at you and thought, I'd like to be your friend. Because on the being online, there's something. Okay, so the whole point of today's episode is basically how we became creators, and I'm going to say it, Neen, how us midlifers and mothers are creators in on a platform that it's not. This statement might not be entirely true, but this is what it feels like on a daily basis. That often it's more seen. It's seen more to me that the youth is celebrated. Like you're congratulated, you're pushed to the top of the pile. If you're younger, I'm seeing more and more 40 plus. That's midlife, right? Yeah, 40 upwards, being out there and creating. But at the same time, I just don't necessarily feel that. Not saying it's not a place for us, because we can absolutely go there, but I'm saying that I feel personally that we need to keep championing ourselves to be there, because whether it's a trend, whether it's fashion, whether it's a particular topic, I see less and less midlifers on there talking about certain things. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think there seems to be more of a trend of older women, as in
big silver hair, 50s, 60s,
yeah.
yoga positions,
all of that jazz,
looking cute in nice clothes.
But I think probably like mid 30s to 50 maybe is the sort of area that maybe not so much, but definitely past 40. Like I think ageism, along with, we know how like the algorithm works and who it favours, and ageism is definitely one of the things that, I think goes against us if you were trying to carve out a space online.
Okay, so let's just rewind a little bit. So do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
No.
Nina, of course you do. Go on.
One little bit.
Of course you do, Nina. Where are you from?
Essex.
What do you do?
Well, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. What do I do? So I am a content creator online, primarily Instagram.
Creator, not influencer.
That's a whole conversation, isn't it?
We got a moment. We got a hot minute.
I never set out to do it. I've had an Instagram account since, about 10 years, since kids were little, and it just used to be like kids and cats and all of that stuff. And then, obviously, I'm a a disabled woman and a full-time wheelchair user, but I only started using a wheelchair in like the last 3 years. And as my mobility started to decline, I think it was 2019, I started to just sort of talk about it online. And then I started to gain a lot more followers, which I didn't expect. And then I think it was sort of maybe the end of 2019, I was offered my first, I wasn't really working at the time either, and I was offered my first sort of sponsored campaign. And
What were you doing before?
I was a therapist. I was a counsellor for many years, and then I worked at an adult college supporting people with lived experience in mental health, and I really enjoyed that. And then as my mobility started to decline, that coincided with having my fourth kid. So in 2019, Carrie was only 2.
Wow.
So I was kind of a bit like, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I didn't know how I would get a job.
Of course, they're the same age, aren't they?
Yeah.
So my daughter is around about the same age. It's almost like that period. We've just lost. It feels like we gained, we lost, but it feels really, really weird because I remember seeing pictures and thinking, oh, he's really small, but now, my goodness. So basically, whilst losing your mobility, whilst becoming a full-time wheelchair user, you were documenting your life on social media.
Yeah, I think I kind of... So for a long time, although I was born disabled, you wouldn't have necessarily have known. And even when my mobility started to decline around 2000, when was Clark born? 2013. I started using a walking stick. And then what comes with that, obviously, if you're visibly disabled, you just attract a lot of fucking shit. People asking you questions and all stuff like that. But I was very much still like, well, I'll just answer them and I'll just try and fit in and blah, blah, blah. And one of my kids is disabled as well. And it was only when he started school and started to have to deal with the same stuff I had that I was like, no, he doesn't have to deal with that. It's like I accepted it for me, but I didn't want to with him. And that coincided with actually sort of finding other disabled people online. And then suddenly I was like, okay, I think I learned about ableism. I embraced being disabled. I found other disabled people. I started to identify as being disabled in a really neutral way, actually not even in a neutral way, in a really proud way. And it was just so much change. And then, along with that, obviously my account started to grow. And then obviously with that, as you know, you start sort of getting opportunities on there, which, in some ways has been amazing because it can be really accessible to be at home and
and be around your family as well. And be there. So I cut you off earlier, so apologies. What was your first campaign?
I think it was like Vista Print. It was Christmas. It was a photo one, and I've got this picture of me. And I was so nervous, and I think it's still on my grid. And I've put I've really dolled up, little fluffy jumper, false eyelashes, but my face looks very tense. And I think I'm holding a picture of myself, or I'm surrounded by mugs and just like all this stuff. But it was I don't know. I think it was like £500, and Jace was like, "What?" And I was like, "I know, this is amazing." And it kind of but at that time, because I was sort of talking about, like at that time, my account was very much like a disability. I'd sort of centred myself as a disability advocate, and I only spoke about disability really. And I did feel a bit weird about doing adverts at first because you know that for influencer culture is a bit ick, especially in a cost of living crisis, and especially when I think when you're thinking about people who are like buy this thing that's actually a load of crap.
But give yourself some credit. The things that you advertise, the things that you're putting out there for your campaigns, you genuinely love. You want to be a part of. No names mentioned, but your reels, your singing reels that you do. I
haven't done one of those for quite a while.
And your lip syncing one that I saw very recently.
I do love a lip sync.
The 80s themed one.
Oh, don't talk about that. Someone commented on that. So what Sophia is kindly
in the now, babe,
is an advert me and Jace did recently, which was for a TV program. We just had to lip sync, and we did. This was on TikTok. Mum and Dad, me and Jace doing our lip syncing, and some of the comments, someone said, "Oh, it's probably one of my kids actually." Was oh, that was a hard watch, and agreed, it was a hard watch.
Yeah, but the thing is that we we both have the opportunity, or we're currently working our way through it, whereby we can work around our families. And I think there's a lot in it, but I also think there's a good side and a bad side to it. But let's start with the good side, because I think without being online, it's very unlikely that we would have met. And was it the pandemic that we started talking?
Or maybe 2021. I'm not sure.
It's still a pandemic, right? It started in 2020, yeah?
Still a pandemic, yeah.
Still a pandemic, yeah, 2021. Yeah, so without being there, and I really think we do have to celebrate it, without being online, we wouldn't have found each other. And there are a few women out there that have actually made a very big difference to my life, and you're one of them. You're absolutely one of them. Because I remember it was a very, very dear friend of mine was very poorly, actually had COVID. And my life had just like, I couldn't go and see her. I just had my daughter. My daughter was like 1. There's a lot going on. I'm at home looking at Cookie. Cookie's looking at me. Alfred, my son, is, he's 1 year old. And I didn't have anybody else really to talk to. And you were always at the end of the phone. And we obviously have the same taste in music, thereabouts. And we ended up doing voice notes. I think we started off singing voice notes down the phone to each other.
Yeah.
I'd like kind of wake up and there'd be a voice note, and then the voice notes turned into little videos.
Jace would like walk in the kitchen sometimes, and I've got like a wooden spoon and my phone, and I'm really belting out like a fucking ballad. And he's like, "Oh, you messaging Sophia again?" Singing.
Yeah, and it's a really beautiful thing, because I think that the last episode I was speaking about swipe right, finding romantic partners online, and this is very, very similar to that. And as well as talking about just motherhood, midlife, that we often, I think I'm 4 years older. Yeah,
I'm 43 this year.
Are you?
Yep.
I think you're younger, so much
I
younger.
think it's because I look so young.
Yeah, that skin is looking very taut, very taut. Is our work, and I find that you have been, and I'm not ashamed to say this, you've been my what's a better word for a checker? Like, you're my person that I send my work to.
Yeah, I know. Fucking unpaid. That's what I am. I'm like an unpaid editor.
Well, no,
You're a checker.
My first line of editor is obviously Cookie, and then because I don't necessarily think he gets what I'm trying to do, I don't think he gets my fashion, or I don't think he gets me dancing. That's why I then send it to you. And I think everybody's got that person online that before they put it out to the world, they send it to somebody. If you haven't, well done you. But I will send a lot of my work to Nina.
Yeah, but what you're sending me is 3 beautiful, pretty identical clips of you dancing. And there might be 1 or 2 dance moves slightly different. And then I have to sit there and go, right, fuck. Did I like the one where she did the finger guns? Did I like the one where she span? And they're all good. And then I tell you that. And then you're just like, no, you're just blowing smoke up my ass.
Just blowing smoke up my skirt. Leave me alone. So tell me, so what is it that you're doing at the moment? So are you, do people approach you? Do people just, so for anybody wanting to be a creator or influencer, so
Either
or. How are these brands? How are they approaching you? Are they sliding into DMs, management? And then what's the next step?
Oh gosh, all the big questions.
All the big questions.
So I have management now, really lovely management, and primarily sort of my work will come through them. Mm-hmm. I don't know where I even want it to go or what I want to do with it. I'm just, you know what I'm like. I don't I've not got that, what is it, like boss girl energy. I don't have any of that. I'm just fucking tired and I just want to make some money. just to make my house a bit more accessible. And then I just want to retire and read fairy porn books, which is what I've been reading this week.
Fairy porn books?
For the rest of my life. Yeah, that's all. I don't have any big ambitions beyond that.
Okay.
Retirement is my ambition.
But is it something more than just making money?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my account is still, disability focused, right? Like my account, the work I put out, the content I create, the silly reels I make primarily is all about either educating non-disabled people not to be dicks to disabled people, or trying to empower disabled people, to not feel shame about their bodies, all of this sort of different stuff. And it's my favourite work, because when I get somebody message me, saying that it's helped or made a difference, it's great. But also, I think you kind of don't necessarily I didn't want to box myself in and be a professional disabled person.
And you shouldn't.
So I have enjoyed sort of doing my little get ready videos and just sort of being able to do other stuff beyond that. But when you do start relying on it for a source of income, because obviously in order to get the, sponsored content and all of that, you have to have a certain amount of engagement. And, this is what we both talk about a lot, is
every single day.
Every single day is the stress of trying to maintain that on Instagram, trying to maintain the engagement. Like you were saying earlier, you must post.
Yeah.
I've taken a week off this week, just haven't been online, and it's been so nice reading my books.
Your porn fairy book.
My fairy porn books.
I just need to make a note of that, because I want to come back to porn fairies.
Okay, we'll come back to porn fairies. And it's been so nice. But I also know when I come back, which I've got to do tomorrow, because I have got some sponsored content I've got to post, that Instagram will just be like, well, we're not going to show your work to anyone because you dared have a rest. It's bullshit.
It is. It is. And I was getting super frustrated because, like I said, this morning I woke up to finding out that an account had been deleted, not my account, but somebody that has worked very tirelessly in putting her brand together, and it had just gone. And she'd followed the rules and got the two lines of authentication, and it had just gone. And you can spend forever and a day editing it. And even though we say it's not just, I personally say it's not just about the followers. I love having a chat, obviously. That's why we're here. I love having a chat, and I love speaking to people in the comments. But for sponsored content, they want your engagement to be high. Certain brands want your numbers to be high in terms of your followers. Even though this person had lost their account, and it can be quite a stressful platform trying to comply in order to be seen, because if you comply, you get rewarded. You get put to the top of the pile. And it can be quite an intense thing to do 7 days a week. And even though a lot of people out there think that it's a very, anybody could do it, you're essentially the talent, the editor, the sound, the makeup, videographer, and you have to compile everything. But to me, I would much, much, much rather do that than return to a boardroom whereby I wasn't seen. And if I was seen, I experienced a lot of racism, sexism, and it really had a massive impact on me over the years. So I find that this currently now, this way of life, the way of working with what we're doing now, is brilliant. But at the same time, it's a real kind of push and pull, because it doesn't always go to plan. What's the best campaign you've done from start to finish? If anybody out there's listening, what would be your starting process of getting in a campaign, and which was your best campaign that you've done?
I mean, I never set out thinking that it would be something that I would be able to do. I didn't think that. I didn't, at the time, didn't really see many disabled people doing sort of sponsored content as well. So it wasn't really something I ever imagined that I would be able to do. I remember just thinking, I'd love to get some free stuff sent to me. That'd be great. Which I hardly ever do, actually. So if anyone is listening, I barely get sent anything. I don't think I've been sent anything this year. Oh, but I've got a lovely bunch of flowers, actually. Shout out Bloom and Wild.
I saw that.
PR.
Was that for Mother's Day?
No, it's just like, I don't know, just they occasionally do it. It's very nice of them. But yeah, lack of...
Where's my bunch?
You got stuff for Mother's Day.
Where's
I
my-
didn't get a
where's my
single
bunch?
thing for Mother's Day this year. Not a single person sent me any Mother's Day stuff, apart from my beautiful children, which I guess is what counts.
Yes, those kiddies.
No, but I remember one year getting, I think it was Superdrug sent me a box, and there was these 2 bottles of perfume, and I'm quite fussy with what perfume I use. But then my sister was like, "Oh my god, that's well expensive!" So I got to give her and my mum one, and they thought I was like the bee's knees. Honestly, those are the bits that I think both of us have a tendency to get in our own way, and whether it's getting older and whether we're perimenopausal, and that obviously affects confidence levels and anxiety and everything else. But I do think we get in our own way with our heads sometimes and forget how good it can be.
Yeah, and it is because like by doing that, it's enabled me to do this, and so many things whereby I've worked around the children, taken my family away.
Look at like some of the stuff you've done the last few years. Like you did that amazing campaign for JD
Williams.
Yeah, and like you just looked hot as fuck.
They just slid in my DMs and were like, "Do you want to do an audition?"
It's amazing. You're literally on bus stops.
So, do you feel...
You asked, I didn't actually answer you, did I? You asked me what I would say to other people starting out. And I guess like really basic things like, you know, tagging the brands you like, you know, just being bold and reaching out to, you know, sliding into people's DMs and, you know, and being like, and just asking people if they want to work with you and just keep making that sort of...
But I want to know of a campaign that you really enjoyed. Don't need to like name the brand, but a campaign you enjoyed and what's involved, because sometimes when you see the end result, and I know in particular yours because I know the process of when you're going through it. If something goes wrong, something goes wrong, something goes right, or something goes wrong. But not everybody will actually know what's involved. And I know that out of a lot of people that I know that you put a lot of work into shooting and editing. You take a lot of time in sense of detail. So a brand sends you something, sends you the brief. Mm-hmm. What do you do?
Have a little cry and be like, I can't do it. It's gonna be rubbish. I'm not very well. I'm not very well thought out with stuff that as much as I probably should be.
But it always looks so brilliant. It always looks so seamless when you put it together.
Thank you very much.
That's all right.
Thank you. I think I enjoy, like you asked, like the ones that I've enjoyed the most, and I think I enjoy them for different reasons. So I feel 50-50 about having my kids in the advert because I will, you know, I pay them, not now, like stick it in an account for them. So they're not, you know, they're not being worked for free. It's not work. Anyway, it's just asked, you know, it might be that primarily I think it's like sort of, are we allowed to like, are you going to be putting out brand names on this podcast?
No.
Oh, well, for a large satellite... No, it's not even satellite anymore, is it? People have satellite dishes? Fucking old.
I used to have a job, right? One of my many, many jobs was to put the name, not particularly of this particular company, transfer the name on the satellite. So you had this big dish, right? And you had like those tattoos you used to put on as kids.
Yeah, like we put the sponge of water.
Yeah, sponge of water.
Get it off.
You had to sponge the back of it, and then you had to like push it down, and then you had to peel it off. But because I was so impatient, I ended up pulling it off, and the whole sticker like would fall off, and that would be a void. So you'd have to like pick it up and bring it. It was one of the worst jobs I've ever done in my life.
That was one of like growing up. That was how I knew somebody was a posho. As if they had satellite telly, because I had a friend whose parents were divorced and her dad was like minted, and then he'd be away all the time. He had like a fucking water, you know what you have in an office? I remember seeing that as a kid.
Water cooler.
A fucking water thing. I was like, how rich are you if your water cooler and your satellite telly? But back in the 90s, sort of
Povo.
But after midnight, I feel like I'm giving a really bad impression of myself, but after midnight on satellite telly, you would get a lot of foreign porn. Which again, as like as a teenage girl, a bunch of teenage girls, it was brilliant. So yeah, veering off course. So yeah, my children. It's really bad segment. You asked me, Sophia, which adverts I enjoy the most, and I said that I feel 50-50 about having my kids in them.
Yeah.
Because I try the boundaries. I think, and I think you find this as well. with how much we sort of share our kids online. I certainly don't reveal as much about, say, their personalities as I used to.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you don't ever see disabled families. Like, you know, you don't really see adverts on the telly with a mum in a wheelchair and her kids.
Never.
So
unless it's Disability Week or like something specific, you just don't. Like, there's no organic material out there.
No.
Assets.
And for me, it's like, okay, well then I'm going to be the representation man.
Well, you have to be.
But so I enjoy doing those. I enjoy doing, you know, when we're just, basically it's me making content of what a day for us might look like. And that's lovely because it's just, you know, oh, here's a family and the mum happens to be in a wheelchair. So I really enjoy those sort of adverts. But I've also, like, I think it was last year, I had with a clothing brand. And I love doing those because I like getting dressed. I like, you know, I like fashion. I like doing my makeup, all of that stuff. And getting to do something completely, you know, not disability related. And also, again, same sort of thing. You very rarely see models in wheelchairs, and obviously clothes look very different when you're sitting down to standing up. So I really enjoyed that because then I'd have other just like wheelchair users messaging me being like, oh, I never thought of wearing, you know, the high waist jeans and the small top. That works really well. And so I really enjoyed that side of it as well. So I think they're probably like my favourite things to do. And when you're working with brands as well who just give you free rein to do what you want, like sometimes you'll get a brief and it's so dry.
The types of briefs where you have to say something over and over again.
Like crunchy apples. I can't believe actually, well, you brought up my bit that I didn't bring that one up.
So yeah, I did a campaign last year and I had to say,
you had to sell apples.
I was selling apples, and I like.
You did it.
I like apples, and I particularly like these certain particular coloured apples, but I had to say something over and over. What was it? Taste sensation.
Mm-hmm. And there's something to do with a crunch.
Crunch.
But you did it. You sold those apples.
Because I like a challenge. I definitely like a challenge, and that was for me. Yeah, I like being able to have my own creative spin. I like being able to do a storyboard, and you know, it has to be a product that I genuinely like.
So what was the first one that so obviously you did your George Clark thing, right? And then had you done any sponsored work previous to that?
No, I don't think. Actually, I did a campaign when I was pregnant with my son, and I had to stand in my pants, and anybody that knows me, I've never shied away taking my clothes off. It's maybe slightly different now as my body's changed a lot, but yeah, I had to be in my pants, bra and pants, and different body shapes, different women, and ended up being on the side of a bus.
You've been on a bus and a bus stop?
A bus stop, on a bus. I've been in Vogue.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I've been in Vogue, but all in my pants, all doing this as well. So that was my first campaign. However, there was all these like contracts and whatnot, and there was an exclusivity around it, which I wasn't aware of, which meant that I couldn't work with another supermarket for I think about a year. And so I think that's been one of the learning curves about being online and being a creator or an influencer, is knowing what's in the contract, because you may get a brand approach you to do something, and then you basically sign yourself out of work because you're essentially can't work with other brands. And so that's been a really big learning curve for me. Yeah, I've had various different brands over the year, but my favourite ones are the ones that just give me free rein, because I know that I'll eventually deliver exactly what they want. But when it's scripted, and ironically,
are you a UK driver?
Are you a UK driver? Ironically, having this podcast, when I'm given a script and I have to read a script over and over and over again to camera, I just can't do it. I cannot do it. Yeah, I'm like, buy this, it's great, it's delicious. I just really, really struggle because it feels very...
Taste sensation.
What was it?
It's a taste sensation.
Was it a taste sensation?
I did send you that little remix I made of you.
You actually troll me. Like,
I wasn't trolling. It's great.
I actually love you to pieces, and you are the word, the voice of confidence in my ear. But you also spend time trolling me. So tell me, what is apart from me? What is of meeting me? What is the best thing about it? Like, what do you enjoy about it? And you obviously enjoy it. It's not just the money, and it's not just being representation. There must be something, and I say this very not negatively, but there must be something around ego, like in building your profile and in being seen, in being recognised.
I'm like 50-50 with that. So there's part of me as a Leo. There's part of me that's so confident and so egotistical that absolutely, you know, the few, because it hasn't happened a lot, but the few times I've been recognised in public, I'm like, oh my God, literal celebrity. I've got a real, I find celebrity so fascinating, just the whole culture of it. And I can't anyway, I'm going to get all nerdy about it. So yeah, my egotistical side definitely enjoys what comes with it, for sure. Like, we got freaking backstage special wristbands when we went to Legoland, me and the kids. Clark's walking around all day like, I'm a VIP. And I'm like, yeah, you are. I love all that. It's great. I love getting sent stuff. It just makes me feel all whatever. But the other side of me hates being perceived, hates it, so insecure, can't bear for people to be, overthink it. People think I'm a dickhead. Should I be doing this? Yeah. So I think, I can't remember what your original question is, but you asked like what I sort of enjoy about it. For me, like being able to sort of earn a living now, I sort of, so I don't see what I would have said to you a couple of years ago is that the sponsored work I do supports the rest of the work I do, right? So I don't get paid for being on Instagram creating, I hate the term educator because I don't feel like I am, but I am educating people.
You are.
But I don't get paid for that. So
what makes you think that you're not?
Because that's just my own internalised whatever. Going, where were you? You barely got any GCSEs, did you ficko? Which is really, which is actually really freaking ableist. And that's where I have a lot of internalised ableism about, education and, how smart I am and all of that. So I am an educator online. Don't get paid to do it when I'm doing it on Instagram. And some of the others, I do other, might be speaking gigs or whatever else. But for me, the sponsored work kind of props that up, which is, allows me to do it. But actually over time, I find myself enjoying doing, I don't see it as much, for me, I enjoy doing that in its own right. I enjoy the creative process of it. I enjoy thinking about how I'm going to film it, what I'm going to wear, what music I'm going to, all of that. I just enjoy the whole process in its own right, as well as doing, I probably enjoy it more sometimes than doing the disability education stuff, because I guess...
Do you feel a lot of pressure to continue that?
No, I don't. I feel like...
Because of the audience, like... A lot of your audience came because that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And in a world where people tell you have to be a certain thing and not many things, it can sometimes be harder for different communities for you to actually say, I want to talk about my house. I want to talk about motherhood. I want to talk about being premenopausal. And sometimes people can be like, well, actually, I didn't come here for that. But actually, that you're the full package, like we all are. We're all multifaceted. And
and you're also allowed to change who you are and what you do. My Instagram is my Instagram, and I'm saying this out loud as if I believe this, but people don't want to follow me. It don't even matter. But it doesn't matter if they, and I have to tell myself that, because at all times I want people in that community that
want best for you.
And there's a bunch of people who follow just because they're like, I want to see you fail spectacularly.
Waiting in the wings for something tragic to happen.
Yeah, waiting to fucking cancel you because you said something, all of that stuff. But generally I have met, same as you, in the last... I've got, say, 2 friends, maybe a couple, a handful of friends in real life, probably less than a handful, that I've known for years and I love them to bits. And then in the last sort of 3-4 years online, again, another handful of my absolute bestest friends. Like literally 5 people. And it's including you.
Yeah, okay. Oh, well, hang on. I know that you can't see this, but if you're watching, if you received one of these mugs from Nina at Christmas, it's a picture. It's a picture of both me and Nina in a cup. But if she sent it to you, you'd obviously have your face on it. Then you're one of her best friends. And
also, hang on, I do have other best friends that didn't get the mug.
But so if you didn't receive the mug, then
maybe you're not on the list.
Maybe you're not a best friend. But clearly, if you are watching this, look at this lovely look.
Why is it all of them though? Every single I sent 3. I sent one to you, one to Sarah, I think one to my friend Mary. But in all of them, we look like we've had a lot of surgery done to our faces.
Are we all midlifers?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, we are.
But you don't have to be a midlifer to have work done. Okay.
All of that. But yeah, I don't know. It's a real. I don't know where I'm. I'm in my 3rd year of doing this now, and
it's old.
2019. I don't know. Time doesn't mean anything to me since 2020. It's very confusing. So no, I started 2020. I was doing some, but really last year was a lot more. So I've only been doing it for like 3 sort of years.
Okay.
And I don't, it's not, I'm very aware that at any point, it could stop. Instagram could whatever, it could just stop. So for me in this side of things, I'm like, okay, well, we'll just make the most of it. And in regards to what, I suppose it would just, I don't know. It's hard. I think it'd be great to continue doing it, but I also don't want to have to, I'd like to be at a point when maybe I'm doing something else and the adverts are like a bonus, like sponsor content on Instagram is a bonus. I don't know. I'm undecided. I just, want to do the bare minimum.
But then how do you feel about, because what I often think about is that this is something that I have approached, I've kind of found at this stage of my life. I wasn't at school. We had your little Nokia and that was that. There was social media, last 11 years, 12 years? So there's the generation that's grown up with it, and then there's us coming into it. I guess my question, or what I'm trying to say or ask, is would you see yourself being on it for like another 10 years?
No, I don't know. I mean, I see myself I've got, it's such a way for me. The best thing about it is the community. So I will always, I think, be on whatever that social media looks like, because we all thought MySpace was going to be around forever.
I never had a MySpace account.
I just missed it. I was that little bit too. I think I might have already had a kid, so I was just that little bit.
What was it?
It was a bit. It's like Facebook, but I don't know. You had music on it a bit more. You'd have loved MySpace.
I would have loved it.
Maybe MySpace will come back. It'd be like all retro and that. But I think social media is going to exist, and I will always exist in it. But I don't know how much. On where we are now, whether that will stay on Instagram or not. But I could drop dead tomorrow, so just don't try to
Why
think
would you
about
say
it. I always say that. You know that. Always talking about my impending death.
Oh no.
So I do, but then as much as possible, I do try and just stay in okay, this is what I'm doing at the minute, and I'm happy. This is fine. I suppose. I'm not sure. Whereas I think when I was younger, I had a lot more maybe ambition or a lot more idea of what I wanted to do and be. Now I'm like, what does that mean? I'm me. I'm doing this now, and that's okay. It's okay that this can be enough. I don't necessarily have to be doing something else. All both my agents would listen to this and be like, excuse me. And I don't mean that. I do want to do all the good things. I've got stuff that I would like to do, definitely. But. I don't know. More and more, I'm just a little bit like.
I'm getting. Like, I don't want my account to disappear or anything. I love being on social media. It's afforded me to do a lot of things, to meet people, as I was saying. But I just feel I can spend ages creating something, and I'm putting it out there because I want people to see it. Right? Is it a case of validation? I want people to recognise and support this creativity that I've been reintroduced to, that I couldn't do when I first moved to London. But what I don't like is the idea that we have to comply to certain things. Posting every day, using trending music. So we have to feed the beast in order to be seen. And I feel that sometimes people do less and are seen. And so does that mean that you dilute what you do in order to be seen? But then essentially you're pushing this vehicle. I always say that, you know, essentially we're driving a vehicle that doesn't belong to us. And that vehicle at any point can stop. So you could be banned or deleted, and that makes me quite nervy. Like I was saying earlier, I woke up to the news of someone's account being deleted, and I thought, if that went, then what have I got? So I'm trying to create other assets elsewhere. You've got a Substack. What's a Substack?
So it's a space. It's like a subscription newsletter, basically. So I try and do it every week, although I haven't done one this week because I've been busy reading. But it's really nice. It's nice to know that I've got this tiny percentage of my audience in this other place that, you know, if I write a newsletter, that goes directly to their inbox, which is great. I mean, you could argue that could disappear as well. Everything can disappear.
Websites, hosting
but
websites.
Instagram is the most, when you have, you know, when you know that stuff tends to only linger for like 24 hours as well on Instagram. And when you do kind of put a lot into it and then it just goes, meh.
No one sees it. But actually we were saying, because earlier I'd said that I posted, I'd actually reshared this episode, last episode, as a very short segment of like, I don't know, 20 seconds. And not only, but 90 people saw it. 90 people saw it and viewed it. And I think, I don't know, maybe I got like a few likes. And I was so deflated by that momentarily. But actually, that's a lot of people. 90 people is a lot of people. And that's a lot of people that wouldn't have seen it if I put it out there. Like if I hadn't put it out there. And you want, the whole reason from doing a podcast, the whole reason for having an account, you want to be seen. You definitely, in the very first instance, you want to be seen, you want to be heard. And I think there is value in knowing that even if it's just one person, even if you reach the ears of one person or one person gets to see your Billy Idol lip sync.
Life-changing, hard watch.
Yeah. It's still that one person that's seen it.
It is.
It's still that one person that sees it. And I think the reason, it's not the reason why I was on Instagram. I started Instagram ages ago just to kind of like document me in Thailand, me out here, look at me, I look cute. And it wasn't until much after the show, because we couldn't document the show on there because it was it was TV. I really I've forgotten again. My mind's gone.
It's all right. Happens.
It happens a lot.
It's the menopause.
Yeah. Do you think so?
Yeah. I never know if mine's menopause or too much weed. My friend said to me the other day, I said to her, I haven't got the capacity for learning anymore. Like, you know, I was talking about when I did my counselling diploma and that. And she said, because you lead she called it a dementia lifestyle. She said, maybe if you stopped smoking so much marijuana and did a little bit more exercise, your brain wouldn't be just
Who
like
said that?
mushroom. A very dear friend of mine who's allowed.
I was going to say.
Who's allowed to say that to me. She's got a slight point, but yeah, I also think she's been ableist.
So,
You were saying like that it doesn't. If you're getting one person to see it, that's one person that's seen it more than, you know. It's this.
Yeah. So I started off by just like showing my life and what have you. But then when I fell pregnant with my son, I really wanted to see other older women. And I remember going through like 40 plus women, and there was loads of older women out there, but they weren't black. And I remember putting #BlackMum and it was mums dressed in black. Typically, this was before I kid you not.
So there's a white person who's put a black dress on.
Like
#Black Mum.
But wearing like black dress.
Amazing scene.
Mum in a black dress, pregnant mum, like whatever. Yeah, I just found it really quite stifling because a lot of my friends had kids early on, and then I was going through an experience without my mum. And so I wanted to find specifically other black mums, because I was having a hellish time going through with my midwife, and I know that a lot of that was down to the fact that I was black, hands down, without a doubt, with this particular individual. And so then after we did the show, I then actually at that point my account wasn't really going anywhere, and that was fine. But I then got, I think, up some press campaigns, and then the pandemic hit, and then my daughter arrived, and so it was just really kind of, and I say this now with the intention of trying to really build a community selfishly, because I need to meet new people. I need to meet new people. I also need to work. I don't need to, Cookie makes enough to run the house, right? But we had never intended on sending the kids to nursery, because there were loads of children's centres. There were loads of stay and plays whereby if you timed it correctly, you could, for like 4 days of the week, you could go to a stay and play, and not really, I don't know, like £4, £5. They're all in walking distance. But then since the pandemic, it closed down. So we then thought, okay, we need to send ABC to nursery, and that comes with a fee that we hadn't considered. So working online has afforded us to send them to nursery and all the other extra bits in life, my driving lessons, what have you. And so it's a brilliant thing. But sometimes I find that, like when you meet people, I've met somebody very recently in the flesh, and I really enjoy it. And I don't know whether they think I'm being a bit weird. They're like, oh, I follow you on Instagram. And I'm like, let's stop, let's have a chat, let's communicate, let's connect. Because I want to find a community. I genuinely want to find a community, because my life I feel like I'm having to start again on friendships. I feel like I'm having to start again on career, because I guess this has to work, or something else has to work. I cannot return back to toxic environments. Every single job I've experienced in London for the last 20 years, there has been sexism, racism. Last 5 years of my career worked in construction, and you can imagine what that was like whether it was like people mocking me for having a hard hat on with braids, or just really horrendous stuff about my hair. I just don't want to go back to that. And there is that element online. You have to question yourself, well, okay, how visible are black people? How visible are wheelchair users? How visible is any, because it just seems, it can feel like that it can feel like it's the same people being seen all the time. What makes you want to keep showing up on a platform that, sometimes they completely just shut down any ideas? You're not congratulated, you're not put to the top of the pile. Why show up?
I think it's, bar the money, because I'm similar to you. Before this, Jace could cover the mortgage and the bills. We didn't necessarily have enough to also, go on a fancy holiday or anything like that, but he could kind of cover the basics. And for me, my money has always been about trying to make our house accessible, because it's accessible to a point, but it's pretty basic. I still can't, there's still lots that isn't accessible. So for me, that's what sort of my money has been about. But I'm not just showing up for that, but obviously it does come more of a reason. For me, it is community. When finding other disabled parents was huge, because I learned so much through them, and stuff that I just wouldn't have known before, just like tricks and tips, or discussing what it's like when, the freaking eugenics that you encounter when you're a disabled person who's dared to breed. It's nice, same as you, there'll be, as close as we are, there'll be stuff that I can empathise, but I'll never truly get, because I'm not black. And that's where you need, we have our community, because nobody else really gets it in that way, right? And I think for me, that's what keeps me showing up, and I find people so interesting. I like meeting new people and talking to people, and most of the time, because I'm also, as you know, really awkward and socially anxious. And whenever I'm invited anywhere, I'm like, Sophia, I can't go. I've got to talk to people. but from the safety of my own home, talking to people, you know, not in face to face is.
This is your first in studio visit?
Yeah, I mean, when we had the pandemic, like the pandemic's still not going on, but obviously lockdown and stuff. All the podcasts I've been invited to do were all obviously online, and also I'm trying to think if you're my first like non-disabled person as well, because I've been invited on a few podcasts where it was, I don't know, like a mum podcast or something, and I've just been like, no. You're not disabled. You're going to say something ridiculous to me, so I'm not coming on, which is really bad. But yes, in person. Also, shout out because it's very accessible as well, which is great.
Yes,
use the accessible loo. It's brilliant. Because there's been a few that I've been invited on, and then when I've been like, oh, can you check out the accessibility? Is there a disabled toilet? Is it step free? And then it's like, I just get aired because obviously it's not.
It's not.
So yeah, this is my first in-person one. But yeah, I think I show up. A lot of the work, like especially for me, like with like my disabled kid as well, everything I do in regards to the content I make around kind of educating, you know, around just not being a knobhead towards disabled people is all for him, because I just want him to just live, you know, just to make that world a little bit better for him. That sounds pretty light, as like I've got some sort of God complex, as if I can do all that all by myself. But it's nice to be a part of other people who are doing it as well, to be part of people who are just sort of making a change and just having, you know, voices heard that often aren't. Because we've often, when we, you know, with disabled stories, when we see disabled people in the media, whatever it is, it's always either like, oh, this poor, lowly disabled person, or it's like, oh my God, look at that disabled person, it's so inspiring. That's it. There's no like, I'm just a regular disabled person who does regular shit like you do.
He's a mum that likes going out.
Yeah.
That likes putting a nice little bit of dress, a nice lippy.
Yeah, that's a terrible description. I do not like going out. I do like putting on a nice dress.
Here today?
Lippy. Yeah, well, that's different. It's seeing you, isn't it? That's different. No, I do like going out. But yeah, primarily I'd say I'm just a regular disabled person who likes staying in, reading fairy porn, getting a little bit stoned.
I think fairy porn's going to be another episode.
Okay.
Because I think we're going to have to wind down shortly. But highs of being a content creator on social media.
Getting to just meet new people and have experiences like, you know, I got to give a talk at Facebook or Meta last year about disability, about inclusion, just, you know, all diversity, all that stuff. But actually, it was a real like, look at you, because I have got terrible social anxiety. So being on a small stage talking for me was like, don't know if I'd want to do it again, but I was very, very proud of myself. And I think those are
the opportunity to be on TV. That was
I was on telly. That was also fucking terrifying, awful. But when I watched it back, I didn't sort of cringe at myself. I was really proud of it. And I think for me, that has been the best thing, being able to talk about the stuff that I talk about in regards to disability in these public ways. That and the free shit. That's the best thing.
Okay, lows.
Oh, same old shit, isn't it? And you know this from, obviously, you know, your point of view. It's not getting invited to places, or it's getting invited to places and then finding out it's not wheelchair, except like when we're talking about like events and stuff like that, it's finding out, you know, the place.
Being a tick in a box.
Being a diversity tick box, which on one hand pays the bills, so you do have to, I do swallow that and go, okay, well, it's paying, but also knowing that I'm a diversity tick box, it's, you know, it's being the only disabled person in the room when it comes to kind of events with other creators, other influencers. It's the sort of the, sometimes, you know, you get shitty comments, people being outright ableist to me and saying stuff. That's all the bad stuff. But, you know, sitting here talking about it with you now, it's, you know, it's a cushy job. It's a good, you know, and I got to meet you. You're like my work colleague. That's only really bad. Hang on, you called me your checker earlier. So, you trolled me. The glare.
But
what I mean is, it's been lovely because we get to talk about.
I was thinking about writing you checks, by the way. I was thinking about maybe, because you said I wasn't paying you, so maybe I do need to like get you on board and start.
No, we've had many a time when I've just been spiraling or whatever else, and you have supported me and everything else. And no, we are fine, my friend. We are fine. But what I mean is, it can be quite. You know, you're not working with other people. It can be quite isolating.
Very isolating.
So, you know, that part of our friendship has been able to talk about this sort of stuff, and, you know, the stuff that, you know, other people be like, really? But it is stressful, some of it. So, and having somebody who relates to that, and having somebody, you know, who you understand what it feels like if I say to you, fucking I was the only disabled person in the room. You understand
I was
that.
the only blackface at a Christmas party. Woo!
Is that the one where they introduced like some random person because they were mixed race and they brought them over to you? Like that was, yeah, that was bad.
You actually can't, if you're not watching this, you can't see my eyes, but absolutely wild from people wanting to touch my hair. And at that time, I was wearing a wig. Remember that one?
Yeah, it was a good wig.
Somebody went, yeah, it was a bloody amazing wig. Somebody went to touch my hair, but it was a wig. If she got hold of it and she was drunk, she would have pulled it off. She would have pulled it off. I was absolutely livid. But yeah, lows. Not being able to switch off. Not knowing, like 7 days a week, not being able to switch off because, you know, it's probably, some people say it's the easiest thing to do. Like it's, the benefits are really good. And I think for us with children, it's also good. I think we do need to continue showing up. It's no longer deemed as a young person's game, even though I think the platform is geared towards that. The other really popular platform, TikTok, I've only just got on there, and I remember somebody sent me a message saying, do you not think you're a bit too old for that? No, I don't actually. I don't think I'm a bit too old for that. That's fuel to fire.
Did you say that? Sorry, I was so caught up with your amazing accent, and I was like,
it was a dancing video. Do you not think you're too old for that? I'm like, no, mate, I don't.
hard watch.
It's a hard watch, yeah. Like, but it does. I don't care. I'm not entirely like, you know. Things will knock me momentarily, and you have to think about whether what you're doing. But no, I'm not. I'm going to keep showing up. But it takes having a good friend to bat ideas back off, and just to kind of for reassurance, to know that you're doing the right thing. But it can feel a little bit daunting out there in social media, especially if you don't have somebody to connect with.
I think it's really important to have a balance as well. Like, I'm all or nothing. So twice a year I'll feel so burnt out that I do have to take like a week off where I'm just not online, which actually is but silly. I should be incorporating that into my everyday life a bit more. But I think because my community is so much online, it is really hard to separate work from just being on there because I'm, looking at nice pictures or chatting to my friends. So it's a tricky thing, but I think something I say it all the time, but I'm just I'm so bad at sticking to habits, is to just try and have a little bit more offline time every day. I haven't picked up a book. Fancy's books, but I haven't read for such a long time. And then I'm reading solidly for a week, and I did that last summer as well.
Porno.
And I said, it's not a porno, it's softcore, Sophia. And I said to Jace, like, why?
That's why you're reading it for 10 hours straight, babes. That's why.
No, but I should be able to do it every day, right? Like, it's for me. I think you have to. I think sometimes people feel like they have to be online, or they have to be taking in all the news that's online as well, which is terrible for your mental health. So I think just having a little bit of balance with, how much I'm showing up.
Okay, so 2 questions.
Yes. 2 minutes.
I know, right? 2 questions.
Make them quick.
Older Nina. Nina in 10 years' time.
Oh, what a hottie.
What a hottie.
She won't remember your name. She's really hot.
Where what's older Nina got?
Older Nina, she's gonna have a book. She's definitely gonna do that. She's gonna have an accessible house paid for by in the midnight hour.
You grab more lip syncing.
Yeah, could sell out really badly. Do adverts for absolutely any old shit. So yeah, no, I'm joking. I'm not going to do that. But no, I'd like to have a book.
No, but it's not selling out though. Like it's not. Well, you've got to remember, and I know I've only got like a few minutes now. We need to wrap it up. It's not because you want a more accessible house. This is a way of income. This is work. Yeah. And that's what, there's a fine line in what we're doing. It's like for entertainment, you want to build a community, but ultimately brands are going to you to sell their product.
Oh, it makes them look good as well, because then they're like, oh, it's really nice. You've got a wheelchair model, aren't you good?
Tick.
Like,
tick.
Blackface, they're great.
Tick.
All of that. So yeah, I want to be, I'd like to, as I say, I'd like to have a little book to my name. I'd like to be living in my little proper accessible house. Just a simple life, Sophia. Maybe I'll be baking a little bit of bread. I don't know.
Will you be online in 10 years' time?
Will I be alive in 10 years?
Nina! Jesus.
I'm not sure, Sophia.
Can you, my nervousness, right? Like, can you,
Sorry.
in 10 years' time, Nina Tame is going to have her book.
52.
Mortgage paid off?
Tits by my knees.
Tits by your knees.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice.
Enough
wouldn't
money
it?
to put them back up here.
Yeah. Well, technically tits on my lap. Yeah, mortgage paid off would be the dream. Yeah, that would be really nice. I just want to be, I want my kids to be happy, me to be content. Me and Jace just doing our thing. Me and you doing our thing.
Doing our
So I'm
thing.
doing my thing in 10 years.
And so, Nina, where could anybody find you?
Primarily Instagram at Nina_Tame.
Substack?
That is called Nina's. I think I'm under Nina Tame on that as well. I'm just like, yeah, Google me. I'm everywhere like a bad rash.
The best rash you could ever have. Nina.
Sophia.
I love seeing you. I really enjoyed our conversation. I really want you back on the chair with me.
I think we should do it every week.
It's not a bad shout.
I'm muscling in.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Can you go and find me some food now?
I'm going to find you
a sandwich shop.
I'm going to find you some food.
Literally wasting away.
I'm going to give you the biggest hug.
Okay, I'll take that.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening in. Nina, thanks for coming. And this is Sooner or Later, the Sophia Cook podcast. I'm Sophia Cook.
I'm Nina Tame.
I'll speak to you very soon. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.